Hello everyone. Very good evening. Can someone please confirm if I'm properly audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Abhishek. Okay. I guess we can get started with the session. Few other people may be joining in between, but I guess that should be okay. All right. So firstly, we would like to formally welcome you all in this new term, September 2022 term for this Modern Application Development 2 course. Well, we would also like to congratulate you for completing Modern Application Development 1 course. Maybe you would have done it in the previous term, May 22 term, or maybe in the previous term as well. Previous term to the May 2022 term. So since this is the first live session of this course in this term, so I would just like to give you a general idea of what all things you can expect from this course. So as you all would know that in Modern Application Development 1 course, what we learned was we learned a few basics of web, that how the web works, different protocols or the underlying protocols that actually makes the web work. Well, with respect to the web application, so we started developing HTML and CSS pages early into that course. And after that, we took Flask as the backend framework in order to design our web applications. Going forward, we also learned about Ginger 2 templating, through which you can render the data, or you can populate some placeholders in the backend itself, so that you can provide some dynamicity to your web application and some rich user experience to the user based on the user's behavior. After that, we also learned about that how the REST APIs can be created and what actually they are. Going forward into that course itself, we learned about security, few more things about backend and front end, and maybe in the last week of that Modern Application Development 1 course, we talked a lot about deployment. So I hope all of you must have at least one, done one deployment for your application, maybe for the project that you would have created for Modern Application Development 1 course. If not anywhere, at least you would have done it on the Applet. So that seems to be quite simple. You just need to put your code there, and that's it. You don't need anything else. Apart from, you can just share the URL. Yeah. So this is what we expect that you would have done in Modern Application Development 1 course. And this one, that is Modern Application Development 2 course, as you would know, is a progression to that course itself. So here, what we'll do is we will start with the basics of JavaScript. So the first 2 weeks of this course are going to focus on JavaScript. So you won't be studying anything other than JavaScript in the first 2 weeks, apart from a general outline of this course and a small review of what you have done before. Now, once you are, once you gain enough familiarity with the JavaScript, we will introduce Vue.js as the front-end framework in this course. Like we introduced Flask as the backend framework in the Modern Application Development 1 course. Similarly, in this course, we are going to introduce Vue.js as another framework that is going to be used in the front end. Remember, it is a front-end framework and not a backend framework. So the reason that we use front-end framework is so that we can offload our servers. We can offload our web servers. So as when I was mentioning about Jinja and Flask while giving an outline of Modern Application Development 1 course, or what you had done there. So I told you that how you can basically populate a few placeholders on the backend itself, so that you can provide some rich user experience to the user based on the behavior. So here, what we are trying to do is, instead of populating those placeholders on the backend, rather we'll do it on the front end, so that we can offload our web servers, and whatever rendering has to happen, or whatever content has to change specific to a user should be done on the front end by making a few API calls here and there. So this is the entire purpose of introducing Vue.js as the front end framework, so that we can reduce the load from the server. Now, once Vue.js is introduced, there are a few extension libraries to it that we will also be using in this course. A couple of them are a Vue router. So Vue router will help you to make or convert your application into an SPA. SPA means a single page application. So the concept or the specification says that you are basically not required to reload the entire page when the user is trying to navigating from one place to another. Instead, you can just dynamically populate or change the content on that particular page instead of reloading the entire page. So this is what the SPA principle says. So we will be using View Router for achieving that. The other extension or the other library that we'll be using here is called Vuex. So we'll be learning about why do we need Vuex, what are the problems that it solves, and what are the advantages for which we are using it here. Now, once all of that is done, we are going to talk about a lot about web storage APIs, that how you can store some data at the client end itself, and need not store it on the server end, or you don't need to flood your database with a lot of excessive data that may not make much sense to be stored on the server side. So that's why you can store it on the client side itself and send it to the server as and when required. Then after that, we will be introducing a notion of asynchronous tasks. Again, we will be introducing the need of doing so, and the frameworks that we'll be using for doing so will be Celery, and we'll be using Redis in addition to that for multiple purposes in this course. Redis is going to be used for, I guess, 2 or 3 aspects as far as this course is concerned. So yeah, this is basically a general outline of what we'll be doing in this entire course up to 12 weeks. So as usual, we'll be learning each of these things week by week wise, and whatever you will learn in the previous week, the next week is going to be based on top of that. So the support that you can expect from us in this course will be as usual as you would see from other courses. You can always come to the live sessions and get your queries clarified. Apart from that, discourse, which is again quite useful for clearing your doubts wherever you stuck. Yeah, so this was basically a general idea of this entire modern application development 2 course. Now, before we actually begin with the session, I would like to know if any one of you has any query.
Sir, in terms of similarity, what similarity Vue.js and React have? Because React is extensively used nowadays.
Most of the JavaScript reactive frameworks, they are almost similar. That means the underlying concepts are going to remain same. It's just a matter of syntax.
Okay.
So the reason for choosing Vue.js for this course is particularly, the ease that it provides for explaining certain concepts. And it's not that it is not that popular. We would say that Vue.js is also quite popular. So yeah, but the main motive for introducing this as the framework was so that we can teach a few concepts with ease. From Node.js, maybe you will get a small introduction about Node.js, but we are not going to talk a lot about it.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
When you said saving information on client side, do you mean cookies?
Yes, cookies is one part of it. We have a few other mechanisms like local storage, session storage, etc.
So one more thing, like since the basically the focus of this particular course revolves around JavaScript initially, like, for a few initial weeks. So what kind of difficulty level we can expect in exams, since JavaScript is a very, very, very vast, like, nobody knows completely, but
yeah, so of course that would require efforts from your end. Right, as we have been saying that these 2 courses, application development courses, these are completely practically oriented. If you are proficient in theory, maybe you may do good in the quiz exams, which are MCQ, MSQ, or maybe NAT based. You would be able to do good in those. But again, when this project component comes in, then you need to be proficient in the practical side as well. So that's why you are required to put extra efforts as you might be putting for the other theory-based courses in this program.
sir, it's not about efforts, like, oh, already a lot of people are putting a lot of effort, but it's about something like we generally I saw in Mad One also. So what basically happened is some of the things were basically was not part of lectures and I can say screencast, but they were there in the exam. So this like is there any kind of a line that this much you have to be known? For example, I'm not asking about the project point of view. That will be okay because ultimately we are basically taking help from other sites for implementing the project. But for the exam point of view, I'm asking.
Okay, so as far as the exams are concerned, we'll try to keep the context limited to whatever has been taught as part of lectures, screencast, or in these live sessions. But again, there will be few things as it is not really possible to cover or to teach each and everything with the help of lectures. 2 to 3 hours of lectures that we are giving as each week's content. So there will be some necessary concepts that you would be required to search from outside world that may not be taught in these theory based lectures or probably in the live sessions as well. But yes, we will be giving you an outline of what you can basically explore outside, and I guess that should be sufficient if you are asking it from the quiz perspective.
Yeah, the main concern is that only, like it's not like you teach each and everything, but at least we should know, we should be aware that this much we should know, like, at least for the point of knowing this particular subject in depth. That's why I'm asking.
Sure. Yes, Srinivasan.
I was just had a kind of a remark. I'm also not familiar with any of these things, but of course I do have programming background. But I did this app dev one in the previous term, and definitely I was surprised that the screencasts were necessary. It's just that my way of revision, right? I kind of follow the videos, but definitely look at the notes also, the screencast. But I don't remember having too many difficult things that were outside these 3 areas. Okay, I'm giving the area one by one. Definitely what is there in the video lectures, then what was covered in the screencast, right? And I had to take notes on my own for the screencast because they don't have backing slides, right? And the third one was on the assignments, particularly the numericals, right? Particularly numericals, maybe a few other things. The weekly assignments definitely covered topics that were outside these 2, but if you had done the assignments, the quizzes were quite simple, right? The quizzes didn't go too much from what was there in these 3. So let me repeat: video lectures, definitely; screencast, definitely; and also the weekly assignments. And I presume hopefully that will be similar for app dev 2 also. Again, this is just my feedback. I'm not saying this is the truth, but this is a fact, but this is my feedback.
Yeah, certainly it is going to remain somewhat quite similar as that of Mac 1. Yeah, thanks, Srinivasan. So there is a question. There is a JavaScript practice programming assignment. The deadline is given as 31st of December. Can you shed some light on when to submit? Okay, so the deadline is set to be 31st of December. Just a minute, let me check that. Okay, well, it should definitely not be 31st of December because this time both of these JavaScript practice programming assignments that are given for week 1 and 2 are also contributing for your graded objective score. So 5% is coming from all of the graded objective week assignments, and the remaining 5% is coming from these 2 programming assignments practice. So yeah, they are not anymore practice as of now. So yeah, the deadline would be changed to whatever the deadline is for week 1. So I guess it would be around 15th of September, somewhat similar or somewhat nearby. So yeah, the deadline would be changed. It's not 31st December. The same thing is with the week 2 assignment as well. I have not seen what the deadline for that assignment is, but ultimately it has not been released. So yeah, we'll make sure that the deadline is correct when we release that assignment. Yes, Kapil.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes.
So the JavaScript.
Sorry, if you can, Srinivasan here again.
Yes.
The practice assignment has been released, and then typically the practice assignments always have a due date of 31st of December, right? I guess that is probably what the query was about, not the actual graded assignment. So I
Yeah,
just
but
looked at
if
the
you would
practice
have
assignment.
gone
That
through
is
the grading document for this course in this term, so you would see that the programming assignments are also contributing 5% in your course grade.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes,
understand
Kapil.
that. Sorry, let me rephrase.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is a JavaScript for week 1. There is a JavaScript practice assignment,
Yes.
simple and compound interest. That is called programming assignment. Since it is a practice assignment, the date has been given as 31st December.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
So
And I don't think that is considered for evaluation, right? There will be a separate programming assignment, graded
no,
assignment.
that's the same. I'll just remove this practice phrase from this title. And yeah, this is the actual programming assignment that will be contributed for your grading. Yeah.
Then the due date indeed is given as 31st December. So you may want to change that also.
Yeah, yeah, correct. That's what I was saying. It will be made to whatever the actual deadline for week 1 is. I guess it would be around 15th of September. That would be changed. For week 2, there will also be one programming assignment, and the deadline would be correct when that assignment would be released. So yeah, both these assignments will contribute to 5% in your course grade. Yeah, yes, Kapil. Sorry to interrupt you.
The assignment that is given, the concepts in that assignment include date and all the parsing stuff.
Yes.
Right? So are we supposed to learn all that on our own, or will that be covered in the subsequent weeks?
See, that's why it is a programming assignment. You are not required to write it in a proctored manner. So what you can do is you can do your research. You are not required to learn the syntax by heart. You can do your research and do this assignment.
Okay. Okay.
So you don't need to be syntactically that strong. You just need to be well versed with the concepts.
Okay.
Srinivasan, was your query clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. I guess I was able to see one more hand raised, but that has been put down now. Okay. Is there any other query from anyone else? Okay, so I guess there are no more queries. So what we have planned for today's session is that we'll be walking you through the activity-based questions for the week 1. We are right away not starting with the programming practice. However, as we'll move forward, you will see that both of the sessions that, okay, I forgot to mention about the live sessions that will be conducted for this particular course. So there will be a couple of live sessions that will be conducted for each week. One live session will be conducted on every Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. The other live session will be conducted on the weekend, that is on Saturday at 9 to 11 p.m. 9 to 11 a.m. in the morning. So this is the schedule of live sessions for this particular course. So today what we have planned is we'll be walking you through the activity-based questions. And in the next week, we'll be probably picking up a few practical stuff, with regard to JavaScript. Today, we are not touching on JavaScript since this is just a starting session and we don't want to complicate it too much. But yeah, the next session, or even as the course progresses, you will see that most of the sessions are going to be programming based or, practically oriented instead of walking through these activity-based, practice-based questions. As we have a lot to learn in this course, so we will also expect you to maintain the pace. Well, one relaxation that you will get in this course as compared to MAD 1 course is basically the lab assignments. In MAD 1 course, you had continuous lab assignments coming till week 7, and you have to keep yourself up each week with each week's content in order to attempt those and submit the assignments. But this time there is no such thing. That means there are no lab assignments as such, But when it comes to project, so all of that content again becomes necessary for you. So yeah, it's better if you maintain the pace with the course itself. In case you are not able to cope up for a week or two, it's okay, fine. You can probably cope up in a next couple of weeks for those. But yeah, ultimately the idea is for project you would be required to put all of those concepts in. So it's not that if lab assignments are not there, so you can probably leave out a few weeks content. That will definitely not help you if you are looking at from the project point of view. Okay. Project for AppDev 2 would be in continuation of AppDev 1. Is that right? So, Afnan, I'm not sure if you have completed your application development 1 course in the last term, that is May 2022 term. If that is true, then yes, the project statement is going to be based on that theme only that was given in May 2022 term as part of the MAD1 project course.
All right. So actually, I've done that in the previous term only. So that's why I asked whether it will be in the continuation of that project itself, or would it be a different project?
Yeah, at least for this term, it would be in the continuation of it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other thing that anyone would like to raise or ask? Yes, Srinivasan.
On the project part, I don't know whether it was discussed in the project discussion or was it a discourse. But generally, what I understood was that subsequent terms, the projects will be similar. That is, the September term Applet 2 project will be a continuation of the May term Applet 1 project. And similarly for the next such terms. So if you do a break between the terms, right, you might end up having to do a brand new project. So that is the understanding we had. So it's better to finish the projects back to back.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to just develop on top of what you did in your MAT 1, so it's better you take it in the immediate subsequent term. Okay, so if someone has done Applet 1 course in Jan term, so you will probably see, or you will definitely see a completely different project name. So in Jan term, you would have created a flashcard application, but this time it is going to be something different. So you will have to start from the scratch again. Yes, so quantified self application is already given as May 22 term project. So this time we are into September 22 term. Quantified was given to the previous term students, May 2022 students. Okay, there is one more query that I missed before. So since MAD1's lab assignment helped me submitting the project, so in MAD2 with no lab assignments, how should I approach this course with the project perspective in mind? Yeah, that's what I told you, right? So there are no lab assignments as such as you would have done in your MAD1 course. So yeah, that's what I was saying, that you should not basically relax in between the course, because each week's content is going to contribute at least something in your project. So yeah, I would suggest you to be regular. Of course, we'll be having live sessions if you are not able to attend the live sessions on time. So again, I would suggest you to view the recorded sessions on the YouTube, and please come back to us in case you get stuck somewhere. May students had Kanban, and this is the project I'm looking at now. Yes, Srinivasan. So you will get a Kanban application if you're planning to finish the project course of this modern application development in this term. Okay. All right, so I guess we can now get started. So what will I do is I'll quickly share my screen and we'll start walking you through the activity-based questions. So again, activity-based questions or even the practice-based questions will involve a little bit of programming component, but right now we'll be discussing them theoretically. And in the next session, we'll open a code editor and we'll do everything in front of you to see how those things actually work. So I hope my screen is now visible. Can someone please confirm
Yes,
if my browser screen is visible? Okay, thanks. All right, so we'll start with AQ 1.1 category, and after that, we'll go with the other categories in the week one. So as I mentioned before, that today we'll be walking you through these activity or practice-based questions, and in the next session, we'll start with the practical stuff of this course. So we'll be taking everything right from the scratch. We'll discuss about that how you can basically print a message with JavaScript, like you do with print statement in Python, how to create variables, what are the different ways to create variables. So we'll cover all of these things in that session. All right. Okay. So before we actually start going through these questions, may I know that how many of you have already finished watching week one lectures, or at least finished 70% or 80% of that? You can just raise your hands. Okay. Great. All right, nice. I'm able to see 6 people who have already completed at least 70 to 80% part of the week one content. Great. All right, you can lower your hands now. Okay, all watched. That's great. All right, so one thing that we have been constantly mentioning in every of our live sessions is basically the participations from your end. So it would be really great if some of you also participate in between these questions discussion and give your inputs so that your peers also feel confident, in case you are trying to help them with some minor issues, that they might be a bit hesitant for asking. So yeah, it would be really great if you all can speak up during these sessions and have great interactions or have great discussions among yourselves. So we'll start with this question. The very first question is, what does Jamstack stand for? So in the very first lecture of this course, we started with a review of what you would have done in the modern application development one course. And after that, we talked about what to see from here. So here we talked about an approach called Jamstack. So here what happens is, you basically have an API, and what you do is you basically make API calls from your JavaScript code in order to fetch the data. And once you get that data, what you do is you basically create a markup of it. So this approach is what we call Jamstack. Now, if we ask you what is the full form of this Jamstack approach, can someone answer?
JavaScript API and markup.
Exactly. So it is the fourth option, that is JavaScript, API, and markup. So these three are the components that will be used in order to apply this approach. So JavaScript will be used to make API calls, and as a result, it will generate markup. So who coined the term Jamstack? There are a few options here. Tim Berners-Lee. I hope you all would have heard this name. Roy Fielding. So if you are coming from Mat 1 course, in the REST API lecture, you would have read or heard about this name as well. Matthias Billman. So this name might be new for you, and that's precisely the answer for this question. So he was the one who basically coined this term. So what does PWA stand for in the context of an application. So anyone of you would like to answer this question? Whoever would like to answer, can you please elaborate a bit about PWAs? Progressive Web App, Afnan Ahmed has answered in the chat. Would you also like to elaborate what this PWA is? What
Yes,
kind of
so yes, may I please add something to that?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so the PWA is an approach of developing web apps in which there are certain properties which the progressive web apps need to adhere to, right? So the first one of them is that the apps are generally mobile first, right? So when you go to a progressive web app, you see things like it is responsive, and another property of that is that they can be installed much like a native app. So they can be installed and add to the home screen. Options are there, and then we can get back to that. And one other very important component of progressive web app is the service worker. So with service workers, what we do is we kind of do operations which are not generally possible in websites, like for example background notifications and things like that.
Yes.
So that is there. All of these features are in progressive web apps.
Exactly. Yeah, so thanks Afnan for giving a detailed explanation about PWS. Well, going forward into this course, we'll be talking a lot about the specifications of PWS. One thing that I want to add is that with PWS, you can even access your application when you are not online. That means you can even access the application in the offline mode. So it is going to probably deliver you the content that is cached. That means probably you would have visited some content before when you were online, and the app would have cached that content for you. So that whenever you go offline and you want to visit that app again, the app will be able to show you that content, whichever is cached. So yeah, we'll be talking about these specifications in a lot more details going forward, I guess, into week 6 or week 7 when we are going to talk about these things. So yeah, the answer would be progressive web. Again, what does SPA stand for? I guess I talked about it maybe in some details when I was giving you an intro about this course. So SPA, of course, it means single page application. So as I was mentioning before, what the notion of this SPA is that instead of reloading the entire page, what you should do is you should dynamically populate the content, or you should dynamically replacing the content of the page that is visible to the user. For example, let's say if I click on this link, so this is basically a link for me. What should happen if I want to make this application an SPA is, if I click on it, this entire screen or this entire page should not load. What should happen is that it should automatically get the content from the backend and should put it here for instead of reloading the entire page. So for that to happen, it will probably be required to make some AJAX calls in the background, some API calls in the background to get the data and to show it up on the user screen. So this is what SPA means, a single page application. So what is the default port number used by a Flask application? I guess this is entity based. Yes, it is. So yeah, all of you are coming from modern application development 1 course. So I hope you would have got to know about it in the week 4 or at most in week 5. So can someone tell me?
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000 it is. Yes.
I also had a project question. So I can leave this as 5,000 for the project, right? Or should it be different?
I did not get it.
For the project, I can leave this as 5,000, right?
Yeah, sure. Yes, definitely, no issues. Yeah, so all right, so Srinivasan, what you are asking is that when you will be developing an API for this project, so at what port should that API run on, is what you are asking, is it?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure, that does not matter, port, whatever you will, that's fine. Okay, so we are done with the AQ 1.1 category. Let me know if any one of you has any issues from this particular category, else we'll move forward to the next one. Okay, I guess no questions from this particular category. So before I go to the next category, that is AQ 1.2, as a JavaScript origins and at least an introduction of it would be introduced in lecture 2. So you will probably see a few questions related to JavaScript in that second category. May I know that how many of you, already know JavaScript? You can simply raise your hands in case you have worked with JavaScript before. So yes, Sapna. Okay, so that means, is it the first time for most of you that you will be using JavaScript?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, precious. All right, so those whoever are learning JavaScript for the first time, again, I would like to mention, please be regular. Again, if you are not able to attend the live sessions on the same time, please watch them offline on the YouTube and get back to us in case you have any queries. Because JavaScript is basically the foundation for this course. When we'll start using Vue.js, Vue.js is again a JavaScript-based reactive framework. So the syntax is again based on JavaScript language. Okay, so we are into AQ 1.2 category. Which of the following is the correct way to embed an applet? Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you have already completed, I guess, Java course. So I think applets was, they were not covered in the Java. Okay, so let me tell you what actually the purpose of using an applet in a web application. So I'm talking about that time when JavaScript was not into the picture, or it was not famous, or not as famous as it is today. So what used to happen is, in case you want to, add some interactivity on your web page. Now, for interactivity, it can be as simple as a simple calculator that is visible on a web page, and you are able to work with that calculator. Okay. So just this kind of simplicity. So what you would be required to do that time was, you have to basically write a Java program, not JavaScript program. It is a Java program, and you will have to embed that Java program in your HTML file. Now, how can you embed that? Using the applet tag that is given in the first two options. The applet tag was supposed to be used in order to embed. Now, the reference that should be provided to the code attribute of this applet tag is to be the compiled Java file. So as you would know, if you have completed Java course, that Java's program actually is executed in two phases. Firstly, you have to use a command called javac in order to convert it into byte. And then that bytecode is basically run by Java launcher. So that you run by using Java command. So there are basically two steps of running a program written in Java. Now, the output of first step is, that means when you use javac, so what you get is, you basically get a .class file. So let's say your file was, applet demo.java before. Once you run the command javac applet demo.java, so what it would do is, it would compile that code, and it is going to create a .class file for you. And that .class file can simply be provided as a reference to your applet tag. That is sufficient enough. But it is not even mandatory for you to provide this .class extension. You can even omit that extension as well if needed. So in case you want to embed an applet in your web page, the objective of embedding an applet is to add some amount of interactivity in the web page. So both of these code snippets are fine to do that. Again, we are not going to use these applets in any aspect in this course, but this was just given to you for your knowledge purpose. So you don't need to learn this by heart, that what actually applets are and how do we use them in web pages, because even most of the modern browsers have already taken back their support for applets. At least Google Chrome has. So which of the following is the correct? Okay, I guess again, this is also based on applet. So is the correct usage of ALT attribute? Now you probably would have heard about ALT attribute in the img tag. So can someone tell me why do we use ALT or alternate tag in case of alternate attribute in case of image tag?
May I, sir?
Yeah, sure.
So the alt tag is used in an image. So when we use that, what happens is, then when we hover over that image, a tooltip will show up there, and the text within that tooltip will be the same as whatever is given in the alt attribute.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Do you know about title attribute in the image tag?
Yes, sir. Title is okay. Title is for that actually. I think the caption comes from the title. Okay.
Yeah, so when you hover on the image, so the text that is being
Okay,
shown
that's the
is-
title. Okay.
Yeah, from
Sorry.
what I know, this is meant for, accessibility, right? So if people are reading it on a thing, you will get at least some information and not the image.
Correct. So, due to whatsoever be the reason, if the image is not able, is not loading for whatever the reason is on the web page. So what it would either show there is, it would show whatever the text that is specified in this ALT attribute. Let's say you are having a bad internet connection, the image is not loading up, so that text would be shown. Or let's say the reference that you provided for that image does not exist. In that case as well, the ALT tag, ALT attribute text would be shown in place of image. So that's the purpose of using ALT attribute in case of an image tag, and the purpose or the usage of it in case of an applet tag is also very much similar. So there are only two options that are basically candidates for the answer for this particular question. One is it is used to display alternative text in case the browser does not support Java, or in case the JavaScript is disabled in browser. The third option has already been ruled out because we know that ALT is going to work somewhat similar as it works in case of ING tag. So since we are talking in context of applets, it has nothing to do with the JavaScript. Applets are basically programs written in Java. So the first option is the correct option. In case the browser is not supporting Java, the browser does not have any JVM. So then whatever text you will specify as part of ALT attribute will be shown in place of that applet. I hope that should be clear.
So this is
Yes.
not just in Java, right? It's also there in HTML, right? Is it?
Sorry, what's there in HTML?
The alt tag, right? Like if an image is not being loaded, then
We are
you can-
talking about HTML only.
Okay.
So this applet tag will also be used in HTML, and the image tag will also be used in HTML. And this ALT is an attribute that could be used for this or with this tag.
So can you explain the second option then? Like what does this mean?
That is a wrong option. It is saying that it is used to display alternative text in case JavaScript is disabled in the browser. So see, read the question again. What we are asking is, we are asking the correct usage of ALT attribute in the applet tag. So if you use ALT attribute in your applet tag, why do you use it? So the objective of using that is to show some alternative text in case your browser does not support Java.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
If you have disabled JavaScript in the browser, does not matter. ALT does not matter. Right? It is only dependent on this first option. It has nothing to do with the second option. I hope this is clear.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So which of the following statements are true regarding JavaScript? So JavaScript can be used for DOM manipulation. So I hope you know what DOM means, document object model. So what happens is whenever an HTML file is rendered, a tree-like structure for that entire file is created. So that is basically what is referred to as DOM. So what this first option is saying is JavaScript can be used for DOM manipulation. That means with the help of JavaScript, you can change the positioning of certain HTML elements. You can change the text, the properties of certain HTML elements. You can even add or remove HTML elements from that DOM. So that's true. With the help of JavaScript, we can do that. So being a client-side scripting language, so remember JavaScript is a client-side scripting language. Now, why are we saying it to be a client-side? Because it is used or it is meant to be run on browser. So if it is running on browser, that means it is running on the client side. So since it is running on the client side, it has nothing to do with the server. So that's why it will also help to reduce the load on the server. JavaScript cannot be used in the backend. Now, this option may require some discussion. So anyone of you would like to comment on this option? JavaScript cannot be used in the backend.
Node.js
This
is
is
used.
possible, right?
Sorry,
You do have server-side JavaScript.
sorry, I guess I mixed up two arguments. Okay, I don't know who spoke up before.
Node.js. Hello.
Yeah, yes, Sridhar.
Node.js is used in server-side scripting.
Okay. All right, I'll come to that. Srinivasan, you were saying something as well.
Same thing. I was just sorry. I spoke over. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we do have Node.js is one important one, but we definitely have server-side scripting.
Can someone tell me what is Node.js?
May I, sir?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the Node.js is a server-side framework, and it is built on JavaScript. So with the help of Node.js, we can also write code that will run on the server side. As in the case of, like, for example, Flask, we have Flask. So what we do is we write Python code and then it is running as a server. So similar thing we can do using Node.js also. There are various frameworks which are available for Node.js. The popular ones are Express and other similar web servers are there, which can be used for developing web apps in JavaScript. So being the availability of Node.js, after the availability of Node.js, we can also say that JavaScript can also be used in the backend.
Okay, all right. Now let me try to simplify the question a bit. So can you tell me that what do I need if I need to, let's say, run a Python program? What do I need in order to run a Python program? Can someone tell me what will I require in case I want to run a simple Python program? Let's say just a
interpreter.
I would require a Python
Interpreter.
Again, if I want to run JavaScript program, what would I need?
Sorry, JavaScript.
I need to run a JavaScript program.
Yeah, so you need a JavaScript engine which is inbuilt in the browsers. So you can also add it to the servers. So that's how you run it on the server. Basically, you need a JavaScript interpreter.
So JavaScript interpreter is
good enough. Engine. I think I've seen the word JavaScript engine.
Yeah, sure. Engine, it is also an interpreter of it. So yeah, that's fine. So yeah, what I'm asking is that having a JavaScript engine or interpreter alone will work?
No, so I don't think it will work, because then we'll need bindings also. I mean,
so
it's a little bit detailed, but I mean, if we go that there, then we would also need bindings to the OS, right? So when we call something, and then it should be translated to system calls, like, and then we can get something from there. I mean, to talk to hardware, we need something like the binding between the application interpreter and the OS, right?
Okay. So the other essential thing that you need here is basically the runtime.
Yes, sir.
So can someone tell me that what is runtime? What is the most common runtime that you would have heard of? I'm talking about JavaScript runtime. So we have discussed about one thing, that to run a JavaScript program, you need at least two things. One is JavaScript interpreter or engine. The other thing is JavaScript runtime.
So in this case, do you mean the browser itself? That is the runtime?
Exactly. The most common JavaScript runtime is the browser itself. So now if we try to simplify these two terms a little bit, I don't want to go into too much of details, as Afnan has already mentioned. Otherwise, we'll lose the context of what we are doing here. But I'll just try to touch upon both of these terms. So see, JavaScript engine is just an interpreter. What an interpreter does is, it is going to read your code, tries to understand it, and executes it. This is what the job of an interpreter is. But having a JavaScript interpreter alone is not going to work if you want to run a JavaScript program, because you need an environment where that program should run, where that program should be executed, and what that environment is going to provide to your JavaScript interpreter or your engine is basically the communication to the external world. Now, in the browser, okay, we talked about DOM manipulation. So in case you want to, let's say, change the CSS property of a certain HTML element, how would you do it via JavaScript? Firstly, you need to get that element. You need to, use the document API. Right? You need to say document.get element by ID. See, I'm talking a little bit of synthetically here, but it's okay. You will get to know all of these things later when we'll talk about these things in the later sessions. So whenever I need to, update something in HTML or in the DOM, I need to target a particular HTML element using document API. Now, where that document API is coming from, JavaScript engine does not have any document API. So that is provided by the runtime that we are calling browser key. That is the most common example of a JavaScript runtime. Forget about document API. Let's talk about Windows object. So what Windows object does is it basically provides certain functions, certain methods. Okay, let's talk about one more thing. One is web APIs. So maybe I'm not saying that you should have or you must have heard about it before. So there are a few functions like set timeout, set interval, clear timeout, or clear interval. These are common JavaScript functions that we'll be learning or we'll be experimenting with a lot, in the next session or probably in the next to next session. So these methods are also coming from the JavaScript runtime. They are not, provided by the JavaScript interpreter. So all of these things through which the JavaScript interpreter has to communicate with the external world, you would need a JavaScript runtime in order to allow that to happen. So that is why we say that there are two absolutely necessary things in order to run a JavaScript program. One is JavaScript interpreter, or we can say engine. What is it doing is it is reading the code, interpreting it, analyzing it, executing it. But in case we write some code that requires some kind of interaction with the outside world, with the outside entities, like I just talked about, maybe document, maybe some properties of the Windows object, maybe some functions from the web APIs. Or if you would have heard about the concept of event loop, that is also provided by the runtime. So that's why in order to complete this JavaScript interpreter, JavaScript runtime comes into play or comes into the picture, which is used to provide these external APIs, through which your JavaScript program can interact with the outside things. Now, if this is clear, that means JavaScript needs a runtime in order to run a program. And the most common runtime for JavaScript is the browser itself that you are seeing right on your screens. I have already opened a browser. So this is a very common JavaScript runtime that will provide you all of these APIs to communicate with the external entities. Coming back to the question, JavaScript cannot be used in the backend. Most of you said that it can be used in the backend with things like Node.js. So now, can someone tell me what is Node.js? Anyone? In the context of whatever we discussed in the previous 4 or 5 minutes. Runtime for JS, exactly. Yeah, correct, Captain. So what is Node.js? It is just a JavaScript runtime. What it is doing is it is allowing JavaScript program to interact with the outside entities. Now, if we are talking about Node.js, we won't say that the JavaScript program can make use of document. No. This document is only provided by a browser. We can't say that it can make use of things that are provided by only the browser runtime. So in case of Node.js, the very common API that you could probably think of is require. I think that could be the simplest example that I could give right now. So basically, these APIs, that runtime is providing are going to change or vary runtime to runtime. That means browser is going to provide something else that may or may not work on some different runtimes. For example, I just mentioned that document is something that is provided by the browser as a runtime, but you cannot use document object when you are running a program on your Node.js in the backend. Okay, so yeah, just to sum up the discussion, as I said, I don't want to go too deep into these things as of now. Otherwise, we will end up discussing some things that we are not supposed to do right now, or which are even out of scope as far as this course is concerned. There are two things. One is JavaScript interpreter, and the other one is JavaScript runtime. The difference between the two is that JavaScript interpreter or engine is something that reads the code, analyzes it, and executes it. What does JavaScript engine has? It has one call stack. It has a heap memory, where the memory for the objects or the variables that you will be creating in your JavaScript program will be allocated. But what JavaScript runtime gives you, it gives you the access to certain APIs. It gives you the access to the callback queue. When you will study about event loop, you will get to know about callback queue. You will get to know about web APIs when we will be using functions like set timeout, where you can particularly put a function call or a callback into a different place altogether. So you will be getting to know all of these things as we'll move forward in this course. So yeah, if we talk about this option, JavaScript cannot be used in the backend. It is a wrong option because Node.js allows us. Node.js is the JavaScript runtime, which provides the access to certain APIs that a JavaScript program can make use of. That should be sufficient enough, or even more than sufficient enough, for you to understand, or for you to at least get an idea that why this option is wrong. Are there any doubts? Any questions?
Sir, I have one doubt, like it is very, silly, but I just wanted to ask. Like, it means like JavaScript is alone capable of developing a whole complete application.
Now, what do you mean by an application here?
Like a web app, which we basically are developing. Instead of Flask, like maybe in near future we have a I don't know, like I'm just new to this field, so maybe there is kind of a framework which basically support JavaScript at the back end, like you are talking about Node.js. So which
See,
help us to-
Node.js is just a runtime. There are different frameworks that we use. I guess someone in this session, I guess Afnan named one of the frameworks like Express.js. So these are the frameworks.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Node.js is
May-
in itself a runtime.
May I add something, sir? Here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to clarify, think about it this way, right? So Python is the programming language, right? So similarly, in JavaScript we have Node.js. So Python, Node.js, and here we have Flask. In Python we have Flask. Flask is similar to Express. That is the framework. Flask is the framework. Express is the framework. And on the programming side, the interpreter side, the interpreter is Node.js for JavaScript. For Python, we have the Python runtime itself.
Okay, so just to correct here that the interpreter cannot itself be called as Node.js. It would be using some kind of engine or JavaScript interpreter. I hope it should be V8, but yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, okay, because there are other variants also of Node.js. I understand. Yes, okay.
Yes, as I mentioned in the very beginning of this discussion, you are not supposed to go too deep into these things as of now. You will get used to these things as we will move forward into this space. Okay, so shall we move to the next question, if this is okay?
Yeah.
So I guess it is quite similar. So which of the following can be considered as advantages? Well, right now I'm marking it as all of the above, but as all of you have said that you have not finished watching the lectures, so you will get to know about event loop in the first week itself, I hope. Let me see. If not in the first week, or I guess you should definitely be getting an introduction of it in the second week. But yeah, you will get to know about event loop in the first couple of weeks. Asynchronous processing, yes, you will definitely get to know. DOM manipulation, I just discussed a bit. But yeah, again, this would be discussed in the first 2 weeks content itself. So these are all the features of JavaScript that one can make use of with the help of DOM manipulation. What could happen is, like I just said, you can change the properties of HTML elements. You can add, remove asynchronous processing. That means you can probably execute some code asynchronously. That means that is not synchronous. That is not sequentially executed. In case of event loop, you will get to know about when you will learn about web APIs or how the callback queue works. How does it take that task, or a particular statement from the callback queue and put it into the call stack when it is empty. So yeah, again, just take these things as a quite, I would say, as a beginner, just try to understand these things. Just try to gain basic idea about these things. And as I'm saying, that in the first couple of weeks, you will be getting an introduction of each of these things. Even in case you are not able to understand a few things, again, as I said, you can come back to us either via live sessions or discourse forum. We should be able to help you in that way. So which of the following is true regarding Java Applet? Again, one question based on Java Applet. So it is a special program that can be run by a browser JVM. So as you would know that if you want to run a Java program, definitely you need 2 things. One is JDK or JRE, or just to say it in a nutshell, you basically need a JVM in order to run a Java program. So as I was saying before, that the browser must support Java in case you want to embed applets in your HTML. So yeah, this first statement is true because the browser should require a JVM so that it can run program written in Java, so that the applets can be embedded or the interactivity can be provided in the web pages. It is a programming language. Remember, we are not talking about Java. We are talking about Java Applet. So Java applet is not a programming language, right? So that's why second option is not correct. Java is a programming language, but Java applets are not. Applets are written in Java. That's of course true. Okay, all right. That's fine. So it can be embedded in HTML documents. That's also. So these are the three options which are correct. By the way, those who have already completed Java, have you ever worked with applets? Well, as I'm saying that most of the browsers have already taken back their support, but just asking from out of curiosity, has any one of you tried exploring applets? Maybe if you would have picked some old curriculum, you would have seen Java applets being a part of that curriculum. Anyone? Okay, then I guess I should not initiate that discussion. Okay, fine. As well, Java applets are not even required for you to learn. So which of the following web browsers evolved from Netscape Navigator? I hope all of you should be able to answer this question. Yeah, it is Firefox. All right, so we are done with this AQ 1.2 category as well. Let me know if any one of you has any questions from this category. So there are no questions. Am I assuming it right? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you please tell a bit about asynchronous processing?
See, for now, what I would tell you is just understand the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. What is synchronous? That means when something happens in a sequence. Let's say you have written 10 lines of code. So what should happen is that firstly, the first line should be executed, then second line, then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is how the synchronous programming would work, or synchronous flow would happen. But in case of asynchronous programming, what would happen is, let's say you are able to jump between these statements. After executing the first statement, you directly jumped on to the third, leaving out second. After that, you jumped on to fourth, and then you jumped on to eighth. So that means where the sequence is not specified, sequence is not fixed.
Okay.
Just a minute. Okay, yeah. All right, so shall we move to the next category, AQ 1.3?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so which of the following encoding does a JavaScript engine use in general? Again, something that you are not supposed to know by heart, but yeah, keeping some knowledge of it is beneficial for you. It is UTF-16. Please remember, it is not UTF-8. JavaScript engine, most of the JavaScript engines use UTF-16 as their encoding style. So I hope you would have already learned about the difference between these three, UTF-8, 16, and 32 in your Mat 1 course in the week 2 itself. So yeah, I'm not going into too much details of it, how they are different from each other. Okay, so I guess the coding part is started. Let's see how much of coding is there. So, okay, all right. I guess we will be having a lot of coding questions now. Anyways, let us see. So what will be the output on console if the following JavaScript program is executed using command line? So if we talk about JavaScript and we talk about the different ways to create variables in JavaScript language, so there are particularly 3 ways. One is you can use where keyword to create a variable. You can use let keyword, L-E-T. The other keyword is const, C-O-N-S-T. So these are the 3 keywords that can be used for creating variables in JavaScript. If we talk about the scopes of all of these 3 variables, so the scope of where is functional scope. For now, you can just note down these things wherever you can, probably in a notebook. And in the next session, when we'll be doing all of these things on a code editor, then you will get a detailed idea about these. So for now, you can just write this thing, that a variable in JavaScript language can be created via 3 things or 3 keywords: where, var, let, let, const, const. What is the difference between scoping between all of these three keywords? So when we declare a variable using var keyword, so the variable has a functional scope. For now, you can just write functional scope. We'll talk about what this functional scope is in the next session. The let and const variables are used to create variables with block scope, block level scope. Please again note down this term as it is, block level scope. Or just to give you a general idea that what is a block? A block is something that is specified via these two curly braces. That means whenever you use a set of curly braces, one opening and the other one is a closing opening brace. So whatever is inside these two braces is what is known as a scope. So this itself is a scope. Again, you can just write down these things, and we'll discuss them in the case. So just to reiterate, var is used to create variables with functional scope. Let and const are used to create let and const are used to create block level scopes. Is block similar to Python's suit? What do you mean? I did not get it. What did you try to say here in the chat? Okay, maybe he's not there. So when we are saying that we are creating a variable with the keyword var, so the scope that var keyword provides is the functional scope. Now, why functional scope means is that if it is declared inside a function, that then it can only be accessed within the definition of that function. But if a variable is declared outside a function using keyword var, then that variable can be accessed anywhere in the program. That scope is basically throughout the program. Please again, try to understand these 2 points. One is that if we create a variable using var keyword inside a function, then the scope of that variable is limited to that function itself. It cannot be used outside that function definition. But if we are creating a variable using var outside a function, then it can be used throughout the program. Right? So here, if I just ask you to have a look at this code snippet, are you able to see any function here in this code? This 3 or 4 lines of code?
No, sir.
There is no function. So like I mentioned in my second point, that if it is declared outside a function, its scope is global. That means it can be accessed throughout the program. Remember, this is also basically a scope. But again, for var, it does not matter. If it is declared outside function, doesn't matter in which nested scope it is being declared. It is still accessible to the entire program. So the output here is going to be 5. Because the variable was created using var keyword and outside a function. That means that variable is accessible in the entire program. So whenever we will try to print the value of x, so we will get 5. Okay, so one thing to note here is that in Python, we use print in order to write something or in order to show something or display something on the console. Here, if we want to display something on the browser's console, we will be using console.log. There are a few other functions or methods as well, which you can use with console, like error, warning, table, and all. But in 99% of the cases, we will be using log. Okay. So this is how you print a message in JavaScript on the console. So here the answer would be 5. The reason we have already discussed, and we'll do a practical demonstration of it in the next session. So which of the following operators is used to avoid coercion in JavaScript language? So let me tell you that JavaScript is a weakly typed language. Now, what do I mean by a weakly typed language here is, that means it does a lot of conversions implicitly. Conversions means it basically converts one data type into another in order to perform some sort of calculation. Even when the user has not asked to do a certain conversion or coercion, then even the JavaScript will do it implicitly. Now, this can be beneficial in some cases, but in most of the cases, it will not be. So in order to avoid that implicit coercion in the JavaScript language, we use this triple equality operator. So let's say I will just use a simple Python statement. If, let's say, 9 equals to 9. Now, if I have written it in Python, of course, all of you would be able to answer this. Would it be true or false?
False.
It would be false. Why? Because one is a string, the other one is an integer. So if the type is not matching, there is no way that this equality operator can return you a true value. But in JavaScript, if you will perform this this code, if you write it in the JavaScript syntax like this, then the JavaScript will tell you that it is a true expression, that this value and this value, they are the same. The reason is that we are using only double equals to, and double equals to does a lot of implicit coercion or conversion. So what it will do is it is going to convert this string 9 into a number, and that's why it is going to declare that these both values are equal, and this expression will become true. Now, in case you want to avoid that from happening, so what you should do is you should put one more equals to sign here. Now, JavaScript will not do this implicit coercion, and what it will do is it will consider it as a string value only. It will consider it as a number value only, and both of these values do not match, because the answer would be true only if their type as well as value both match. But here, the type itself is not matching. So that's why it would result false. So that's why we use triple equals to in order to avoid this implicit coercion in JavaScript. So this double equals to is just like an equality operator, but again, that will do a lot of implicit coercion. This is an exponential operator. Now, which of the following have a block level scope in JavaScript language? I discussed about it when we were discussing about the second question. So does anyone remember? Which of these
Let
keywords?
and const.
Exactly, let and const have the block level scope in JavaScript language. What type of scope does where has?
Functional.
It has functional scope. Exactly. Right. Nice. Okay. So now the next question is about ECMAScript. Has any one of you read about or heard about ECMAScript before? Maybe we will have to go into the origins of JavaScript in order to understand what ECMA is. Anyone? Okay, no issues. Let me tell you.
It is standard for JavaScript.
Sorry?
It is standard for JavaScript.
Exactly. It is a standard for scripting languages in the browser. So if I talk about how JavaScript actually came into the picture. So the first version of JavaScript was actually released around in 1995 or 1996, the same time when Python came, around 1995, I guess. Well, the name of JavaScript originally was, I guess, Mocha. Later, it was the project name was renamed to LiveScript. And when the first official version of this language was about to be released, the project was renamed to JavaScript. Right? Because Java was a popular language at that time. So just in order to gain some publicity, you can say, it was renamed to JavaScript to match the name somewhat similar to Java. So that's how JavaScript came into the picture. But along with that, so JavaScript was basically defined for a browser named Netscape Navigator, which we know with the name Mozilla Firefox in today's world. But Microsoft basically has one more browser at that time, Internet Explorer. I hope you all know that. Of course, no one used that browser in today's world, but Internet Explorer was a quite popular browser at that time. So Microsoft created a scripting language for that browser as well. I guess they named that language as JScript, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I guess JScript. So what happened was that this Netscape Foundation. So what they did was they basically gave this JavaScript language to ECMA. So the full form of ECMA is, I guess, European Computer Manufacturer Association, if I'm not wrong. Well, you can just type it on the Google, you will get it. I'm assuming it is European Computer Manufacturer Association. So what they did was they just gave this language to this ECMA organization and asked them to standardize this scripting language specifications, right? So I guess they gave it to ECMA in around 1997 so that they can standardize that. But when this was standardized and when this ECMA script came into the picture, the J script was already in place. And as I told you, that Internet Explorer was one of the most popular browser, or I can even say most popular browser at that time. So the scripting language that was used for Internet Explorer was JScript, that was developed by Microsoft, that initially adhered to the ECMA standards, but as they go forward, it basically stopped adhering to the specifications that were given in this ECMA. Yeah, someone has raised hand.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yes.
I understand this part, this applet thing that is for Java, right?
Yes, applets are for Java.
So applet is not related to JavaScript or its origins.
No.
Okay. Yeah,
so
sir,
see,
got it.
the idea of applets was to provide some kind of interactivity in the web page. So applets itself, required the JVM to be installed in the browser. And when this JavaScript came, those applets were completely removed because you can do everything with the help of JavaScript. Why do you even need to install a JVM on your browser? Okay. Yeah. So where was I?
Sir, ECMA is.
Yeah, so I was discussing that Internet Explorer was the most popular browser at that time, and it initially adhered to the specifications given by the ECMA standard, but going forward, it basically stopped adhering to those specifications. But remember, it was the most popular browser. Still, it was making market shares. It was quite popular among people, so that's why it did not affect at all. But I guess around 2004, when the trend started, or the trend had a change, where what happened was that Internet Explorer, loses that popularity among the people, because what happened was this Netscape basically released one more version of their browser, that was the Firefox, and that actually captured the entire market, and the shares of this Internet Explorer, they started declining. And since Netscape was adhering to this ECMA standard, this is how this ECMA came into the picture. And after that, all of the commercial scripting languages, they started adhering to this ECMA standard. So basically, JavaScript is something that is based on the ECMA specifications or the ECMA standard. After that time, that means after 2004, whichever commercial browser has come up, they have implemented their scripting language adhering to this ECMA. So it is basically a JavaScript standard. It is a markup language? Definitely not. It was designed to ensure the interpretability of web pages. Yeah, so let me tell you that how this point is true. So as I mentioned, that Microsoft using its own scripting language, that was JScript, and this Netscape was using its own scripting language, that was JavaScript. Now what happens is, if you write a program or if you create an application targeting the Netscape browsers, so what would happen is it will work fine on their browser, but if you will try to run their application on the Microsoft browser, that was Internet Explorer, so since they are using a different language there, so the application won't work fine. A few of the features would break. So that's why this was one of the reasons for bringing in this ECMA as a standard, so that you can provide a set of specifications or create a standard that all of the scripting languages must adhere to in order to ensure the interpretability of the web pages or the applications across the browsers. So this was also one of the major point for bringing in this ECMA standard. So yeah, it was designed to ensure the interpretability of web pages across the browser. It is a markup language, that is not correct. So it is a JavaScript standard. It is used to ensure the interpretability. All right, I hope this should be clear.
Yes, sir, clear.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Thanks. Okay, so we'll move to the next category. I guess, yeah, that was it for 1.3. Yes. So we'll move to the AQ 1.4. So yeah, again, we have come down to the JavaScript based questions. So the first question itself here is asking, which of the following is not a reserved word in JavaScript language? So reserved words are something again that cannot be used as identifiers, that have some special meaning, already have some special meaning in the language. So if I talk about const, so I already told you that there are three ways through which you can declare variables in JavaScript. One is var, let, and const. So const is something that is used to declare variables, so that automatically becomes a reserved word or a keyword. Int, we'll come on to that. While is you would have seen while loop in Python or languages like C, C++, Java. Similarly, while loop will also be there. And if else concept, of course, since JavaScript is a programming language, so while and else will all be there. So the only option that is remaining here is int. Now, those who have studied about Java, C, or C++, they might know what this int is. So since all of these languages are basically, statically typed languages where you need to define the data type of a variable before creating it. So languages like C or C++, where you need to define that a particular variable should be of integer type in order to declare it. But in case of JavaScript, there is no need to do that because it is a dynamic language, dynamically based language, where it will, you can even change the data type of a variable from one to another, and you don't need to even specify what the data type of a variable is. So int is something that is not a keyword in JavaScript language, but is a keyword for other languages like C, C++, Java. Which of the following is not a valid literal? Now, literal here is something that can be used as a value. That means that can be assigned to a variable. So null is basically one of the primitive types in JavaScript language. 5 is a number value. So number is again a primitive data type in JavaScript. Remember, the primitive data types in languages like C, C, C++, Java, or Python, they are not the same in JavaScript. Right? They are different. In JavaScript, these primitive types are different. They are number. There is nothing called integer or float. So yeah, these two things are different in both of these languages. Then we have true, and then we have IATM. So again, IATM is a kind of string, so that is okay. 5 is a number, and null, I have already mentioned that it is a primitive data type or a primitive value, that is null. Now, if we talk about the third option, true, maybe if you would talk it in context of Python language. Well, yeah, let's try to do that. Now, suppose I remove this keyword JavaScript from here, and I ask you which of the following is not a valid literal in Python. What would be your answer?
None.
It would be null. Now, in case of JavaScript, what happens is null becomes a primitive value, and this true becomes wrong. The reason is Boolean value still exists in JavaScript, but they do not start with an uppercase alphabet. They start with a lowercase alphabet. That means if you need to define Boolean value, be it true or false, you need to write everything in the lowercase. That is lowercase e and RUT. Similarly for false. So that's why third one is the correct answer for second question. Which of the following is not a primitive data type in JavaScript language? Again, we are talking about primitive data type here. String is a primitive data type, as we saw in the previous question. This IATM was of string type. Number, we saw this 5 was of string type. Then we have Boolean. We discussed that if this t becomes lowercase t here, then it would also be a valid literal in JavaScript language, or it will be treated as a Boolean value. So Boolean value or Boolean data type also exists in JavaScript. The only thing that does not exist is long int. Again, that is something that is coming from C++ or C. So long int is not a primitive data type in JavaScript. But the other three are string, number, and Boolean. They all are. Again, we have a reserved word. I hope they both are not similar. Yeah, they are. So again, we have to tell that which of the following is not a reserved word in JavaScript. So here I would not like to replace JavaScript with Python. Okay, let's even do that. So now, if I will ask you that I replace this JavaScript with Python, what do you think? What would be the answer?
Let and const.
Okay, what about yield?
I think there is.
Yield is there, right?
Yes,
But-
yield is also there in generators. If we talk about generators, you will get to know about yield in Python.
So, but the thing is, in Python, even if we declare something like max equal to something, even though max is a function, it works fine. So,
Are you sure?
yeah, I've actually tried it. Like, it does not cause any error.
So I guess it should not happen because it might create ambiguity. But yeah, it is definitely recommended to not use keywords as the identifiers or as the names of your variable names or function names, etc. So here we are basically talking about reserved words in JavaScript. If we try to replace this JavaScript with Python, so the answer would be latent const because define or def is used to create functions, and yield is something that comes into the picture when we talk about generators. Or there is, well, this is not the actual concept, but like you would have heard about list comprehension or dictionary comprehension. Similarly, if we try to do synthetically something with tuples, we try to do tuple comprehension. However, there is no such concept in as tuple comprehension in Python. But when we try to do the tuple comprehension synthetically, we are actually creating a generator out of it. So I don't want to discuss those things right now. The answer to this question in case of Python would be latent const. But if we try to answer it in the context of JavaScript, then it would become
Def.
it would become
Def, I think.
Yeah, it would become def. JavaScript has no special meaning for def. It has a special meaning in case of Python language, where it is used to define functions. Function names are not reserved. Okay, anyways. Yeah. So the last question in this category, AQ 1.4, which of the following is true regarding primitive data types? So we discussed about primitive data types in JavaScript. We have number, we have string, we have null, we have, I guess, Boolean. After that, we also have undefined. Yes, these are the primitive data types that we have in JavaScript language. So the very first thing about this question, or the first option, is these are not objects. So if we talk about primitive data types, so these are not objects, and this is true. We will learn about JavaScript objects as well. But if you create something as a or if you create a variable that is holding a primitive data type value, that won't be treated as an object. Int is a primitive data type. Again, this int is not something that is available in JavaScript, but is coming from C, C++ and Java. So that is a wrong option. Number is a primitive data type. Yes, number is. Undefined and null are also primitive data types. Yes, they are. So the only option that is incorrect here is int. That is not a primitive data type. So int can also be used as an identifier in JavaScript. All right. So yeah, right now means we are learning all of these things theoretically. We are answering these MCQ or MSQ based questions. But in the next session, definitely all of your doubts would get cleared because we'll be doing everything live in front of you. That would be a live coding session, to be particular. All right. So any doubts from this category, AQ 1.4?
So, okay. So int and float are just inside number.
Yes. JavaScript has just number, and yeah, number, this integer, float, everything will come inside.
Okay. So yeah, I was doing the Java course simultaneously, so some concepts are becoming like confusing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm always trying to compare it with C, C++ or Java, because int is something that is available in Java. But of course, you use wrapper classes, you hardly use int there. Okay, so shall we move to the next category?
Yes, sir.
So this also has almost 14 based questions only, and it's no issues. So yeah, this is something which we call an object in JavaScript. That is basically created with these two curly braces, and this object will have certain properties. It can have a variable of its own. It can have a function of its own. Well, yeah. So if we try to declare a variable like this, and after that, we just try to print the value of it as it is on the console, then the value that will come up on the console is this empty object, right? Because this is what it was initialized. So if we try to do this, this empty object will be displayed on the console. Consider the following variable declaration. Let x equals to this. What will be printed on console for this statement? That is console.log x.value. Now x is what? X is basically an object here. And right now this is an empty object because there is nothing that we have defined in this. So just treat it as a Python dictionary. Okay. What happens in a Python dictionary is we create key value pairs. Similarly, in JavaScript, objects are also key value pairs. It can have a number of key value pairs. So what happens is x.value. Now just consider that you create one key value pair and the key is value and the value to that key is, let's say, 10. So what would happen in case you try to print that statement is x.value, you will get 10. But right now, this is an empty object. There is nothing, there is no key value pair that exists inside this object. So that's why it is going to give us what?
Null.
It is going to give us null. Because it does not exist.
May I add something?
Yeah.
Should it be undefined, sir? Because I think it should be undefined, right?
Yes, it should be undefined.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it should be undefined. Yeah, the reason is that in case we are trying to access some value that is not defined, so that would be undefined. Null is something that we explicitly provide as a value to a variable. So yeah, that was a mistake. So it would be undefined. So remember the difference between null and undefined is null is something that we have to provide explicitly, and undefined is something that a variable automatically gets whenever it is not initialized. Okay. So yeah, it would get undefined because we have not created any such attribute or any such key inside this object, that is value. But if you would create one, then it would be able to get us the value to that key. What will be the output if the JavaScript program written below is executed? So const x and console.log x. So can someone tell me what would be the answer? You don't need any concept related to JavaScript here. Okay. Who answered that?
Yes, sir, me. Yes.
Okay, okay. Anyone else would like to answer this question?
I think same as before, like undefined.
May I say?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it will throw a syntax error. I think it is because this is a constant, well, right? We are declaring it as a constant. So there is a necessity of constant variable declarations to have a value there. I mean, like we cannot have that constant x and then we don't, like we're not giving any value there. So this is not permitted actually in JavaScript, I think.
Exactly.
That is why it will throw a syntax error. Whereas had it been like var or let, then it will work, right? But it is a const. So in this case, it will not work.
Exactly. Yeah. Correct explanation. Yeah, very good. So
thank you, sir.
Yeah, that was supposed to be my next question after finding out the correct answer. So the error is coming not due to the second statement. It is due to the first statement itself. Because what we are trying to do here is you are trying to create a variable using const keyword. What does const mean? Const means constant. That means you are trying to create a value that is supposed to be constant and that should never change afterwards. Now, if a value is supposed to be constant, you have to provide that value at the time of declaration, no matter what. So that is how the const works. This is not specific to JavaScript. If you do it in C or C++, you have to provide that value at the time of declaration only. In Java, there is no such keyword as const, but there we use final keyword. So that also has the same concept. Right? So here, the concept is that if you are creating something as const, you need to provide a value while declaration. Otherwise, it is going to create a syntax error. So a syntax error due to the first statement itself, not due to second statement. C++, it would also be an error. In Java, if you will just replace this const with final, it will be an error. Is that okay?
So I hope let and where it won't give an error.
Yeah, they won't give you an error. They will give you undefined.
Okay.
Okay, so consider the following code snippet. Lx equals to 14. We just discussed that a value or a variable that is created using const must be initialized by declaration, and the value cannot change afterwards. Here, we are trying to create a variable using let, and we are trying to change its value. Now, what will happen if you try to print x?
It will log 15.
It will log 15. Yeah, just simple thing. There is nothing tricky in this question. Well, this is based on functions. I'm not sure if that's the correct time to discuss this, but in case you already know about functions from languages like Python, so I guess that should be self-sufficient for you to answer this question. See, what we have here is we have an object that has, just consider it as a Python dictionary as of now. Okay, in Python dictionary, I can understand the keys are supposed to be, strings, but here it is okay. You can do that. So what we have in this object here is one key value pair. The key is color. The value to that key is red. What is happening is obj.change color. Now, remember, this object had only one key value pair. If you are saying object.change color, that means it is something that was not defined previously. So what you are doing is you are adding one property to this object. Just like, you have a Python dictionary, let's say obj, and you have a key named color whose value is red. After that, you say obj square brackets, and you type this change color in the single quotes or double quotes, and you assign some value to it. This is just similar to that thing only. So what you are doing is you are assigning a value to it, but but that value is not something that is a number or that is a string value, that is a Boolean value, null or undefined. It is a function. What type of function? Which accepts one argument or which takes one parameter as an argument. That is color. Color equals to this dot color. Now, again, this has come into the picture here. I'm very sorry. Again, I try to map it with the Java language or with C or C++ language. There we use this as the calling object. So where we actually use this is in languages like C++. Let's talk about Java. Maybe a few of you would have done Java previously. So this is used to refer to the calling object in case of Java. So whoever is going to call this function change color, that object will be replaced with this. Now, what happens is once we add this property, okay, after executing the second statement, this object is now having two key value pairs. One is color, the other one is change color. The value to the color is red, the value to the change color is this function. Now, what you do is you invoke this change color property. Since it is a function, you are invoking it the way you invoke a function by passing a parameter called green. So what it is going to do is it is going to call this function and it is going to provide this green value to this color parameter. So what happens is, since the associativity of this equals to operator is from right to left, the value that is there on the right hand side or the value from the right hand side expression will be copied to left hand side expression. So whatever the value of this color variable is, what is color? Can someone tell? What will be color here?
Green. To the parameter which we are given.
Yeah. So since we are passing green here, it is a parameter that is passed to this function. So this color would be green. What we are doing with this color is we are saying this should be copied to this dot color. Now just try to map it with what I said a minute ago. This is going to refer to what? The calling object. Now tell me, who is calling this function? Who is calling this change color?
Const obj.
Sorry. Yeah, obj is calling it. So obj will be replaced with this here. Now, what you can interpret it as is obj.color. Okay, you don't need to interpret it as this dot color anymore. Once you know that obj is the calling object here, you can simply replace this with obj. So now, if I ask you what is obj.color, can someone answer me? What is obj.color?
Green.
Obj.color is red as of now, right? Because we have yet to execute this statement. We are just trying to find out what if this value exists in this object. So obj.color already exists and it had a value red. But now what we are doing is we are reassigning that value. Since it was just a simple variable, we can always reassign it. So what would happen is this dot color, that means obj dot color, which was red before, now will be reassigned to green. That means the next time you will try to print the value of color of obj object, it will no more give you red, it will give you green as the answer. So that's what the question asks you. What will be the output for the statement console.log obj color after executing this code? So after executing this statement, and this will invoke this function, and this is going to change the value of this color. After that, what it would show on the screen is, or on the console is, green. What is this called here in this context, sir? Yes, this is a keyword. The value of this is going to change depending on how and where it is used. So we will be talking about arrow functions going forward. There you will learn that this has a very wide scope. It can refer to certain other things as well. It is not mandatory that it will always refer to the calling object, but right now, to keep it simple, this is a quite simple question. I am saying that this is going to refer to calling object, but going forward, we'll see how this behavior changes. So for now, just consider this dot color will be replaced with obj dot color. That's it. Right? So the answer would be green. Are you able to get a basic idea? Again, I'm saying you don't need to be too much worried about it in case you are not able to understand it. Hopefully, all of these things, all of these doubts that you may have right now will definitely get cleared in the next session when we will write code on a code editor and we'll execute that one by one. Is that understood?
Sir, here we were able to change the const object, right?
See, the object is const. That means the value that you have assigned here, that cannot be re-referenced. But the properties inside this object can be changed. That means you cannot now do obj equals to 9. That is not allowed. But if you have created a constant object, you can always change the properties that exist inside that object. But you cannot change the reference of it. Like I said, you cannot make it obj equals to 9 now after making it const.
Okay. So can I directly also change it like obj dot color is equal to a different color? Will that
Yeah, sure, you can do it.
Okay.
This is what we are actually doing here, but just we are using this here. This will eventually be replaced with obj. So that's completely fine. You can do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
So in Python classes, we use self. So this is like self.
Yeah, in Python, you can compare it with self, the calling object.
So there is some difference between like a dictionary and class object in Python. So here it seems inside the like the dictionary thing, we are putting a function, like the key value is a function.
Yes.
So is there no distinction between like a dictionary and object?
No. I just gave you the example of Python dictionary so that you can start interpreting it, that what an object is, because previously we were seeing questions like this where it was an empty object. So that's where I try to give you an example that just try to compare it with a Python dictionary, which has elements in the form of key value pairs. But yeah, there are a lot of distinctions.
So if an object has 2 or 3 key value pairs, but previously we saw console.log x.value. So what will happen if it has more than 1 key value pair?
No, you cannot have it. Again, the same concept to dictionary. If you try to have 2 similar key values, 2 similar keys, the latest one will override the previous one. Let's say you already have this key here, color red. After that, you say you are trying to create one more key, thinking that obj.color equals to green. You are thinking that it will be able to create one more key inside it. No, if the key already exists, it will just override the previous value. You cannot create 2 keys with the same name inside the same object.
No, I mean different keys, like different values, color equal to red or number equal to 1 or something like that.
Yeah, sure. Then you can do that.
In that case, if I do obj.value, what will it output?
If you already have value here defined inside the object.
Yeah, but there are two key value pairs, right? So which value would it output?
Can you just write the type of object you are defining here in the chat? I am a bit confused. Possible? Can you just write it in the chat?
Yeah, can we scroll up?
Yes.
So I think, yeah, so this question, so to this empty object, and we did console.log x.value. So
Okay.
if there are 2 or 3 key value pairs in x, so which value will the console log? So that I was
So if you
confused.
will just write x, nothing else.
Yeah, no, this x.value. So which value it will output?
So value is basically, you should not treat it as a keyword here. This value is basically a property, a key inside this object. Right?
Oh,
Just like we had a
okay.
key.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
like we had a key color. Similarly, this value is a key.
Yeah, I was thinking something else, like the key value thing. Yeah, okay, I got it.
Okay. All right. So I hope till now it should be clear. At least you should be able to get a basic idea. Now we'll move to the next category. That is, I guess, also the last category. The lecture. Okay. So I hope you don't need anything specific to this course in order to answer these questions. Which of the following is not a front-end framework for web development? Is not a front-end framework. So React.js, Vue.js, Bootstrap, all of these are the front-end frameworks. Flask is something that we have used as a backend framework. So that's the answer. Which of the following is not a backend framework? Flask is a backend framework. Django is again a Python-based web framework. Express, I guess Afnan mentioned in one of his discussions that it is basically a backend framework for Node.js. So Vue.js is something that is a front-end framework and not a backend framework. Which of the following is correct regarding JavaScript? It can manipulate the DOM. We discussed that in one of the questions in one of the previous categories. JavaScript is a programming language. Yes, it is. It cannot manipulate the DOM. This is just contradictory to the first option here. So that is not correct, and none of the above not correct. What does Ajax stand for? So does anyone know what does Ajax mean?
Yeah, the second option, asynchronous JavaScript and XML.
Yeah, so we are actually not going to use Ajax particularly. We are going to make use of fetch in this course, but again, that's, you can say, an updated version of Ajax that is going to much more syntax. The syntax is going to be much more easier for us to make fetch API calls instead of using XML HTTP object request object. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So these were the activity-based questions. So we have almost completed them. We have a set of practice assignment as well, but yeah, we would hope that you would try to attempt this practice assignment yourself, as well as this coding assignment as well. Remember that this is a graded assignment. The deadline of it would be changed to, let me see what the deadline is. I guess it is 15 or what it is. It is 18. So yeah, the deadline of this programming assignment will also be changed to 18th of this 18th of September here. It won't be 31st of December, and it will contribute, or this assignment alone will contribute to 2.5% in your overall course grade. Since there are just 2 programming assignments, so each of these programming assignments will contribute 2.5%. Okay. So make sure you also try practicing this assignment, and we'll discuss this once the deadline is over. So in the next session, what we would expect from you is that you would try attempting these practice assignment questions. Hopefully, we will be able to discuss all of your queries. And as I have been mentioning many times in the session itself, the next session will be a coding-based session where we will try to learn JavaScript syntax right from the beginning. We'll start with how to print a message on the console, and then we'll go ahead with creating variables. We'll learn about scopes, functions, and all. Okay. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, yeah, Afnan, yes, please. I did not see your hand raised.
Yes, sir. So do we have replicate sessions also in this course?
Applet, we can actually do. So see, it depends on us that which platform we will be using. It's okay, we can do it on Applet as well, no issues.
No, I
The
mean,
other thing we can do is we can use VS Code and run it on browser by just creating a live server instance. Yeah, there are so many
okay,
alternatives.
live server. Okay. No, I mean, I meant to say that do we have collaborative coding here also? Like,
see, collaborative coding, I'm not sure how successful it will be.
Okay.
Let's
That's why I
say we
wanted
have
to
a
ask.
very few participants. I
Yeah.
think we can give it a try, but with a lot of participants, it would be difficult for us. to
I understand.
collaborate.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Should I download any ID and be ready for next session? I would try to do it on the Applet then, in case you are not very much familiar and starting with the JavaScript for the first time. So I think we would start with Applet. Don't worry. But yeah, in case you have VS Code installed, I would highly recommend you to install an extension called LiveServe. That should suffice. But the next session, we'll take it on the don't worry. All right. Does anyone has any other query?
So the difference between this var let and const, so
Are you still speaking something?
will am I audible? Hello?
No, I think your voice completely broke for me. I was not sure if it was only for me or for everyone else. But yeah, I was not able to hear anything, whatever you said. Can you just repeat it once again? Hello, am I audible? I am audible. All right. So it is problem from is it? Uh, 21F3003015. I guess he has left or joined again. Sorry, I'm not able to read out your name since roll number is showing up as your username.
I just restarted. Am I audible now?
Yes, now you're audible.
Okay, so this difference between var, let, and const. So will we understand and learn this while practicing JavaScript, or will there be more lectures devoted?
Maybe I can show you the difference between these three in the next session itself if we have some time. I'll probably try to show it to you. But yeah, that depends, since I expect that most of you are doing JavaScript for the first time. So the basics itself might take some time. But yeah, if we will have some time in the next session, I'll try to finish it in the next session. I'll basically show you, by opening the sources tab in the browser's console and show you that how the scoping works, how the difference or what the difference is.
Yeah, in lecture 1.5, 6.30, there was something for const text in an array. So in that case, there was no error. So that was confusing to me.
I don't know what does that mean. Const x in.
So
can you just try to elaborate?
Suppose we make an for loop in JavaScript. So we do like for let x, then x less than 10, then x plus plus, then console.log x. So that is working. But if we use const in place of x, it will throw error.
Okay.
But yeah, but in the lecture, sir showed that he made an array. Some const x equal to array, and then he did for const x in that array, and then it did not throw an error. So that was very confusing.
So you will be able to understand that once you understand the scoping. So
Okay,
what
sir.
actually happens is in case of for, when you are declaring a variable using const keyword, so it cannot be its value cannot be changed once it is declared or once it is initialized. So in case you are using for loop with the standard syntax, like first the declaration part, then the condition part, and then the increment or decrement part, like const I equal to 0, y less than 5, and I plus plus. In this case, it is definitely going to generate an error, because what you are trying to do is you are trying to change the value of a constantly declared variable in the same scope. But what happens when you do it with for I in, the scope of each block is basically different. That means a new variable is created for each block. Well, it's okay. These words may sound jargon to you as of now, but it's okay. We'll try to do it. We'll try to cover it in the next session if we'll have some time.
So is it like the value of x is being overwritten?
No. It has
Like,
to do something with scopes. What is
okay.
happening there is that for each new scope, a new copy of that variable is being generated.
Okay. So yeah, it's a little confusing.
That's so. A high-level answer would be that for each scope, a new copy of that variable gets generated. And since they are two different scopes, and the values are not changing, because what happens is whenever the scope gets changed, you get a new copy of that variable, and that does not change in the same scope. That changes in the next scope.
Okay, sir.
All right. Anyone having any other queries? Okay. Yeah, we are also looking forward to interacting all of you throughout the course. Okay, I guess so. There are no more queries. I think it's a good time to formally close this session now. So once again, thanks everyone for joining with us in this session, and we'll meet you all on Saturday from 9 to 11. And yeah, I'm looking forward to have a very interesting session that day. So it will be completely practically oriented. Okay. Thanks everyone. Yeah. Have a good night. Bye.